Throughout the years of pro Valorant, we have seen stars shine bright, then burn out as fast as they rose to the spotlight. Many reasons can lead to once great players decline, but all leave people wondering two questions. What happened, and what could have been if they continued to dominate? One player more than most had these questions swirling around him recently, since he led his team to the pinnacle of Valorant. Demon1 has been dealing with questions regarding his play and what happened to his prime for a couple years now. But with all the discussion and arguments about this once rookie of the year, more and more as new fans join the esport, people are starting to forget how much Demon1 was truly the main character of the game back in 2023. Full of hopeless decisions, real plot armor, great triumphs, and cosmically lucky events, Demon1's prime was nothing short of exciting. So I decided to journey back through Demon1's career from ranked god to world champion. Then compare that prime to the last 2 years of his play that has seen his star dim quite a bit since then. But first, please subscribe with notifications on as we move closer and closer to the end of the season, with videos just getting bigger and better as we reach Champions Paris. But either way, let's explore Demon1's humble gaming beginnings. Demon1, contrary to popular belief, didn't just start diving into pro gaming with Valorant, as rather in his late teens, he actually became quite skilled as the Unreal Tournament 4 player, which, if you know anything about the game, is an arena shooter that requires both precision and hyperactive mindset. So compared to other pro players I've documented throughout this series who came from CS, he actually fit in perfectly with the changing meta, that it evolved from the grounded gunplay to billion utilities a second moments of controlled chaos. So when he transitioned to Valorant in early 2022, he immediately was cracked, catching the attention of both viewers on Twitch and big-time orgs, leading to people lumping him with the nickname Cheater1 because of how absolutely clinical his headshots were. He ended up signing with NRG as a streamer, but quickly he realized that this wasn't the route for him. He was just too good to be standing on the sideline while players like Ye and Tens dominated on the biggest of stages, where it really mattered. Right now, he was just a ranked demon. He needed to prove that he was the real thing, one that could rival the devil. But it would be a long road though, and he hit the ground running, as he started joining small tournaments like Nerd Street Gamers and Knights Monthly, just grinding his teeth against tier 2 and 3 opponents for prize pools as small as $71. What is interesting is that while he played good and showed promise on agents like Jet and Chamber, his teams never really made a big splash in these lower events, barely making out of group stages at times. But while this period during the summer 2022 didn't result in a lot of winning, it did result in a good foundation to show that he could stick around in real pro play. Then, he got his first real shot at a decent org with SQN 2.0. While lesser known players like Clear, who would later play for DSG, allowed Demon1 for the first time to take full advantage of the broken chamber that had taken over Valorant at the time. Quickly, his stats jumped from pretty solid for a duelist to eye-poppingly great consistently, with him leading his team to 2 wins in Knights Monthly, while holding his own against top tier 2 teams like Shopify Rebellion, with fans who watched the games believing he had already outgrown the talent surrounding him. Even some were viewing him as a true hidden gem in the oversaturated NA tier 2 market going into the next season. But of course, he was a long way away from reaching the stage he was searching for, but only starting in April of that year, he had already taken massive strides towards his goal. But then, he was given the biggest opportunity he could have ever dreamed of. Evil Geniuses, the laughingstock of Tier 1 Valorant, was planning to try and pull off something unorthodox to turn their fortunes around going into the first year of franchising. They were going to not just field the 5 standard players, they would also have a full second team of subs on the bench. The goal wasn't having an ever-changing starting roster, but rather a clear starting team and then a handful of promising Tier 2 players willing to sit on the bench and help the starting team practice, then actively compete. For Demon1, this was an interesting proposal. Does he take this chance, which would make him technically a tier 1 player, but would mean that he wouldn't be actually playing, but rather just practicing a lot and helping the core team? There was no promise that he'd ever play in a tournament all season, which would mean that he'd miss out on an incredible second tier 2 season that could just drive his stock up further than it already was. Looking from Demon1's perspective, taking the slot as EG's 8th sub seemed like a huge risk, but he also knew the huge reward. And after weighing the options, he went forward with it, joining the team in January of 2023. along with 9 other players from all across NA Valorant. Demon1 was going to take a bet on himself and prove he was already ready for the spotlight.
The top side of things to fall. Oh, come on! This guy is literally...
Luckily, as with everything in his career so far, Demon1's chance arrived much faster than anticipated. EG started their experiment modestly, winning against a weaker Team Heretics in their opener behind FPS veteran Ethan, but they faltered in the quarterfinals against Talon. While the loss showed glimpses of competence, the team still felt incomplete. This feeling persisted into the regular season after a loss to Cloud9. With the season structured for quick consequences, EG decided after this defeat to tap into their deep bench, hoping to maybe find that missing piece somewhere, or at least make an attempt to stay within the season. Thanks to Demon1's strong performances, surrounding hype, and EG's need for an operating specialist, he was called up to the big leagues. Just 1 year after starting at the bottom of Valorant, he stepped onto the VCT Americas stage in week 2. But nothing would come easy. While only a few wins were needed to scrape into playoffs, victories were scarce to come by as the team struggled to mesh under Coach Potter and new IGL Boostio. They lost in Demon1's debut against 100 Thieves, where he subbed in mid-match. Yet, they rebounded in their first regular season win against Crew. Here, Demon1 showcased his flexibility, switching between KJ, Jet, and Brimstone. The deciding map on Fracture was won largely thanks to his critical impact on smokes, while Jajimo delivered as the team's race, giving the team a much-needed defined agent pool. Losses to Furia and Loud then pushed EG to the brink of elimination, but in week 5, with their backs against the wall, Demon1 began revealing his true potential. He top-fragged throughout the match, playing Jet on all 3 maps, posting a match-leading rating. This performance highlighted the team's newfound flexibility, with Jajimo enabling a uniquely potent double duelist setup when they need it. As they faced higher-staked matches, the cohesion solidified. This was the right configuration of this 10-player roster, and by having a practice team, they were just able to get better and better as the season went on. But then, when it mattered most, EG did stumble. Demon1 and key players faltered against NRG at the final hurdle, seemingly ending their playoff hopes. Then, a miracle. MIBR, who looked awful all season, pulled off a stunning last-second upset against 100 Thieves, all while having a coach as a substitute. This shocking result, decided by round differentials, handed EG the final playoff slot. It was a true miracle for a team just finding its footing. Demon1 and EG wouldn't waste it though. This is where his prime truly began, and the underdog story captured attention. First, they shocked the league by upsetting NRG. Demon1's 28 kill performance was pivotal, including a critical clutch against FNS, while Calm proved his tier 1 worth. Then, completing the comeback, they defeated regular season leaders Cloud9 in 2 matches, clinching the 3rd seed for Masters Tokyo. It felt scripted, a team left for dead, revitalized by a mysterious rookie who lifted them to the international stage. But for Demon1, this was just Valorant's rhythm, and he wasn't done yet. Having reached the international stage, he was aiming higher. He wanted the world to know he was the best. They just hadn't realized it yet. At Masters Tokyo, Demon1 shone in his international debut. While EG didn't lift the trophy, facing an unstoppable Fnatic at their peak with Leo Chronicle, Alfear, and Durka was just too much. Their Cinderella run, though, thrilled fans. They won exciting matches filled with highlight plays and clutches from every player. Demon1 finished top 10 in ACS rating and KD for the tournament as the runners-up. Though many hailed this the ultimate underdog run, Demon1 and EG weren't satisfied with just being historic, they wanted to be perfect. So at Champions LA, qualified thanks to their high Tokyo finish, they channeled everything they learned during their rollercoaster season onto the World Championship stage, blazing hot with Demon1 leading as the spearhead. They swept their group, then marched to the upper finals. Thankfully, the Fnatic threat was battling through the lower bracket, so instead, EG faced another late tournament giant, Paper Rex. The battle raged back and forth, stretching to all 3 maps and spilling into overtime on Pearl. When the dust settled, Paper Rex won by the slimmest margin. While EG now had to survive the lower finals, this felt like a grand finals preview. and Demon1 willed it to be one. Facing Asfes and Les hunting a trophy, Demon1 declared this would be his era, and he dropped 101 kills across the series, dominating Bind and carrying EG back to the grand finals, determined to finish their legendary run. The stage was set perfectly. EG's entire story was compelling. Paper Rex, heartbroken in Masters Copenhagen, faced their likely final run together before Jing's mandatory military service. Emotions couldn't be higher on both ends. But when the grand finals began, it seemed like a mere countdown to EG lifting the trophy. EG masterfully contained Paper Rex's signature aggression and chaos, funneling it straight into their duelist winning stars like Demon1 and Jajimo. Even with Paper Rex's map ban advantage, the selected battlefields felt tailor-made for EG to dominate. By the final rounds of Lotus, with victory undeniable, the team's confidence soared. This was the perfect Cinderella story, and Demon1 at his absolute peak stood at its center. He sealed the final map of the entire tournament with a stunning 23-13 stat line on Astra, securing the best rating of the match. With that, Demon1 and EG became instant icons. They won in front of their home crowd, lifting the trophy for their region in the most unexpected fashion imaginable. It was undeniable. This rookie, who started the season warming the bench, had clawed his way to the top and emerged as the undisputed MVP of the entire tournament and possibly the entire year. He carried the team's weight relentlessly, right across the finish line. Since the champion's triumph, however, the landscape shifted for Demon1. Like so many before and after him, reaching Valorant's absolute summit proved easier than staying there. His subsequent stints with Energy and Lev have struggled to capture the same magic. Comparing his dominant 2023 stats to the past 2 seasons makes it clear his first incredible peak has ended. Yet, as a relentless grinder whose pro career only began 3 years ago, time remains firmly on his side. He possesses every opportunity to reignite that fire, rediscover his form, and return to the heights he conquered while toppling the world's best. Regardless of what happens next, we'll always have the memories of the sheer dominance Demon1 unleashed during that unbelievable fairy tale run, a gift for which the Valorant community will forever be grateful.
I just want to prove everyone wrong.
Oh yeah, F the haters, respect my f***ing name, I'm the best player in this game.
Best player! You know what, he's a champion, we'll give him that one. We'll give him that one.
Check out my last video on how Paper Rex was able to save themselves from disbanding after all signs pointed to the end of this roster. Also subscribe with notifications on for future videos like this one.